All right, so we are going to do practice problem P3-11 on our sectional or pictorial views. We're going to kind of get this into an isometric, so when we're done, we'll basically be able to see this in several different ways. So I'm going to start by creating a sketch, and I'm going to start, in this case, I'm actually going to start on the side view. So I'm going to come over here to the right side view, and uh, again, as I create this sketch, so I'm going to select the sketching plane, and I'm going to create a 2-point rectangle. So I'm going to select my origin point here and move up. Now we can see and we know that the dimensions of this is 1 1/4 in my height by 1 inch in my depth. So I'm going to go 1 tab 1.25. So, and we'll hit enter to give us that dimension. So there is my rectangle for that. We also know that we're going to use that same rectangle tool here, and I know that I'm going to be cutting this point out. Now, again, as you kind of do these type of things, understand this is just one way that we could possibly solve this particular problem. So we could start it a lot of different ways. Now, so I've got my rectangle here, and I'm going to create a dimension. So I'm going to add the dimensions that are in the problem. So I know that from there to that line to the other line that is a 0.5 dimension. So I'm going to dimensionally constrain that. And I'm still in my dimensioning tool. So I'm going to click from this line to that line, and I'm going to dimension this. And as I look on the right side view of the problem, we're at 0.75. So now at this point, I'm done dimensioning. I've got all the dimensions that I need here, so I'm going to hit the escape button to get out of that dimensioning tool. And I need to trim some stuff out, so I'm going to go to my trim tool. I'm going to trim that line out and that line out. Now notice it still is there. Well, that's because we created and used a square over the rectangle. So we got to basically kind of trim out both of those entities. So I'm going to trim again, and as soon as I did that, you'll notice it wiped out my dimensional constraint. So let's go back in. We want to maintain and keep that dimensional constraint, because without that dimensional constraint, things could change on us, and it could kind of automatically change depending on what we're clicking. So let's put that back in. So there is the dimensional constraint. I just selected that line, moved it over, and left clicked in order to get that placed. Hit the escape button to get out of the dimensioning tool. So, and I can finish the sketch. So now I'm coming up to my home tool. So we're getting this isometric view. Now I can extend and extrude this back. So I'm going to extrude it back this way, and we'll see that our dimension here is going to be -3. Do I have to take it back that way? No, not really. You could kind of come out and go forward with it. It's really up to you, however you want to do that. So that kind of gives me what I see here. And notice, so I've got this L-shaped block. I can see in my front view, it's pretty much, or my side view right here, it looks the way I'm supposed to. But now let's go up and let's kind of extrude on the top. So I'm going to create a sketch now on the top surface. Now, make sure when you do this, I am selecting this surface. So you can select a variety of different surfaces now to sketch on. So I want to sketch on the top of this part. It rotates and pivots me over. Let's go with a 2-point here. I'm going to select from there, and we're going to kind of come all the way over and click there. Let's go back in and add some dimension tools here. So we know then that according to the activity and the drawing of the book, we know that the dimension from here to here is 2 inches. So we're going to set that at 2 inches. Now, I don't need to do a dimension on this this y dimension here vertically, because when we created our geometry, I select that point and I went down to this line. So that pretty much made a dimensional constraint, or put that constraint where it tied in those sides of this square to the actual aspects of the part that we were already on. So I've got that sketched. So but if you want to double check, you can. So let's go ahead and click that. Notice it's already coming out at 1 inch. So if you go ahead and hit enter to put it in there, it's not going to hurt anything. It's still there, so you know and understand what that dimension is, and it's good to go. So let's finish this sketch. All right, you can kind of see the sketch on the top plane. Again, now I'm going to extrude this down. Now, notice in this case, because it recognizes that you drew on this plane, it's saying, okay, well, how much further down do you want to sketch? So I'm just going to click on this for the moment, just to kind of show you how this reacts. So let's go ahead and drag this down. In this case, we're cutting it, and we see that that dimension, so well, we've got to create a dimensional constraint here too, or we can sit here and look at the print and do the math. Well, the math says that we're taking the 1¼ inch overall height of the part, and this shoulder is only a ½ inch up. So I can take 1¼ minus the 0.5 or ½ inch, and that means that we know we're going to be minus 0.75 here to go down. All right, so I just hit enter. Now look at the shape that we've got. And notice it's still not quite right. Well, that's because we didn't select both of those. So let's fix this. So anything that we do can always be fixed. I'm going to come right down here to my timeline with this extrusion. Now, I'm going to put my cursor over the extrude tool, right click. Let's go back up to edit feature. At this point, I've already got everything there that's correct. Let's go ahead and also select that. That way it'll take both of those, and I click OK. All right, now I've got the general shape of this object. So our next thing here is to create a circle. And I want a circle or a hole right here on this surface. And I want 2 holes, one here and one there on that surface. So while I could create a sketch and draw a circle and then extrude that down, in this case, the better option here is to use the hole creation tool. So I'm going to click on my hole creation tool. It wants to know the face or the sketch point. So I'm going to select this face. This is where I want it to be. Now let's kind of rotate in here and get this moved around so we can see here what we want it to do. And we can say, all right, well, it needs a dimensional constraint here. In this case, it's saying that that is 1 inch. So let's, and as we look at this, if I click that, it knows that this should be 0.5 away from that side, and I can hit enter. Left click to kind of get it there. So that kind of positioned it. So now it kind of blew out. So let's go back, try this again, select the hole. So now, again, what it's wanting here is the placement, or what we refer to as this reference. So let me select this here, and we're going to say 0.5, enter to place that. So, and it kind of bulks right there on that. Again, not what we wanted to do. So we can come right back down to our timeline, right click, let's go back to edit feature, let's kind of see what it wants. So let's get this reference. So let's take a reference 2 here. So let's select this reference as well, because that is dimension from that side of, and this is going to be 2.5. So to place that. Now, as soon as I hit enter, it kind of takes that back out, but we're still not done. So we didn't actually give it the correct size hole, or I'm not sure. Let's use a tool to make sure here. So let's go up to inspect. So I'm going to measure this hole. And when I see that, so it comes back, all right, so the hole here gives me a center point position. It is the diameter of 0.5 and a radius of 0.2, so it is okay. So we're good on that. But let's just, so we're practicing here on how to kind of create and make some edits. Let's go back here. I'm going to kind of go through. Let's just talk a little bit about some of these different tools as well. Now, The extents, notice I've got different extents here. I can say a distance, I can say to something, or I can say all. In this case, I want that extent to be all because we know that hole is going to go through all. We always will want it to be through all. Notice we also have different types of holes. So I can say for this point, it's just a simple hole, but I could put a counter bore on here. I could put a countersink. We'll talk more later about what the differences are here. We can also use a tapped hole. So we can have a clearance tap, we can have a regular tap, or we can have a taper tap, also known as a pipe tap, fitting in here as well. So in later assignments and activities, we will get into all of these different forms. So that is good to go on this one. The hole is in place the way I want it. So I have two more holes to place. So let's use the hole tool again. Now I'm going to create a hole on this one. Now notice right away this is going and saying 0.7. So let's change this to the size. We see that our actual dimension here will be 0.25. So on the actual dimension. And again, we need to kind of select some reference points. So I'm going to select from this edge, and that should be 0.5 placement there. So, and from the bottom of this edge, it was dimensioned at 1 inch. So we can type that in and place that. Now, we're still kind of getting something going on in this video. So let's kind of come back in here and say edit feature. So it is given us a actual drill point here. So it's kind of our hole type here. So we've got a simple hole. So, and that hole, notice up here, we're saying I want that to be 1/4 inch deep. So that's our extent setting here of the distance. So, and down here is the actual dimension. Notice how it's put in here, the diameter of the hole. So when I did this, I didn't include the right diameter. I put it in the wrong spot. So let's fix that. There's 0.25 and I could sit here and calculate this distance out and actually put that, but I'm going to actually change the extents because we know that we want this to go through all too. So I'm just going to select through all, and I've now got my reference dimensions put in there as far as where I want it. Everything else is good. I am good to go, so we can click OK to get out of that tool. Now, that takes care of that hole. We've got two holes here too. So in this case, I'm going to use the rectangular pattern. So I'm going to sit here with the rectangular pattern tool. Notice it gives me an object type. In this case, I want to select the feature. The feature that I want is that hole. So I'm going to select the hole. So, and then it says to select the axis. Well, I want this axis to come over here. So let's kind of, as I select that axis, so, okay, we can move this over. So, and I only want one more hole. So, and I want that to be 1 inch away from this. Now, notice the direction that it places. So we're going to have to kind of make sure that we get this correct on this. I don't need this both ways. So let's take the spacing. We can kind of do the extent overall or spacing here as well. So in this case, I don't want this to be that many. So let's kind of go here with this. So, and we take a look and say, okay, well, where does that coming from? Well, right here on our axis, I put this in the wrong place. So we got to make sure that we are aware. I want this to be quantity of 2. So I only want 1 in the other axis. So I can click OK, and now I have this done and complete for my model in here on my isometric view.